Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Miles Miller podcast. You might know me as professional stand up comic Miles Miller, or from the very successful television series, The Miles Miller Show. This is the beginning of a revolution. This is the dawn of a new age. This is the time where another unfunny comic starts a podcast. Now, I know there are about 8 billion people on this earth. There's about, let's say, 16 billion podcasts. Everyone has a podcast, whether it's about comedy, whether it's about cum, whether it's about various herbs and spices and rating them and ranking them and tasting them, smelling them. Everyone has a podcast. What I bring to the table is I'm not funny. I've never done a podcast before. I grossly overestimate how many people actually want to listen to me. I have a very high level of confidence for someone who has very little to say. I know every single podcast that's ever been made has started off their podcast by sarcastically making the joke about how many podcasts there are, other than maybe the first 3 or 4 podcasts that were ever started. Every podcast since then has said, oh, hey, I know there's so many podcasts out there, right? There's too many podcasts, right, guys? So what we're going to do is we're going to make another podcast. What I'm going to do is pretty much exactly that. I'm going to make a podcast, but the only thing that's different is when I release my podcast, every other podcast will cease to exist. They'll just stop. They'll realize, oh, Miles over there has reached peak podcast. He's podcast maxing, as it were. Sorry, those were my pipes. You'll hear those occasionally throughout the broadcast. My pipes falling, and they make a loud noise. This is a very good start to the Miles Miller Show. What I'm going to do in this episode is, as a professional stand-up comic, someone who has done stand-up comedy once, didn't make any money off of it, so I can't really even call myself a professional. I'm going to tell you how to write a joke. Now, this is something that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot in the comedy world because comedians are a lot like magicians and they really just don't like anyone and they want to keep this comedy thing to themselves. So for a lot of people, writing a joke is never actually talked about. And people who want to get into comedy kind of just have to figure it out because comedians are so fucking self-obsessed that they aren't going to share with other upcoming comics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that rule. And first, I'm going to address the fact that the question is fucking stupid. How do you write a joke? You don't. You don't write a joke. That is the worst way to go about comedy. If you're saying, oh, I want to write a joke. Let me sit down on my big typewriter and write a joke. Let me write multiples of jokes. That's not how you write jokes. That's not where real humor comes from. And I find this very strange. It shouldn't be this difficult. It should be a lot easier to just say, hey, don't force it. It's the motto of writing jokes. Just don't force it. If you force it, it's never going to be funny. Even if you actually put in the work to a well-crafted joke, if you force it, it's never going to work. Let me share with you an example. Every single joke I've ever told, whether just in passing or on stage, has come from a place of just a natural place. It's just come from, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's not something I sat down and toiled over. You work on the wording, you work on it. You can't just throw whatever comes to your mind out there like I'm doing for this podcast. You got to work on it. But the funniest things, at least to me, and this is what People on the internet will say comedy is subjective. And to me, I don't really know what subjective means because I dropped out of college. But what subjective really means is that not everyone has to be funny to be a stand up comic. To me, that's what it means. But I find myself funny, so I'll share with you some jokes that I've made over the years that I think can go head to head with any professional stand up comic out there. Here's a joke I said yesterday. I'm in Walnut Creek, or as I like to call it, the nut. That joke came from, okay, let me set the stage. I'm sitting there, Walnut Creek, in a laser hair removal place. They are going to laser off the hair in my asshole at this place. That is what they're going to do. That's their job. They're going to burn my hairs off because I had ingrown hairs on my tailbone and it created sort of, I'll refer to it as a tumor because it sounds better than a cyst. It is a tumor in the sense that it's a growth, but it's benign and really not dangerous other than just oozing fluids. So I had an oozing ass, oozing tailbone. So I don't want that to happen again. I had a surgery. It was awful, just awful. Shouts out to Dr. Savan for digging around in my butt and getting that sorted out. The point is, I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there in the waiting room. What am I doing? I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I'm referring to Walnut Creek as the nut. I don't think any amount of sitting down with a big quill and paper, a big inkwell, I don't think you can compare. I think there's a problem with the term writing a joke. Yeah, you write it down on paper. You have to put pen to paper, as they say, or paper to pen, depending on where you're from in the world. You have to write it down, but that doesn't mean you sit down to write a joke because you think you should. You sit down to write a joke because you have a joke to write down and you don't want to forget it. That's where all of my jokes have come from. Here's another joke I'll share with you. The name's Cunt. James Cunt. Now, this joke is funny, and I don't like to always explain why a joke is funny. This joke is funny because, James Bond, famous heterosexual male, he always has this saying where he introduces himself in kind of a cool way. He says his last name first, then he says his first name, and then last name. And he says the name's Bond, James Bond. So what I did is I replaced that with cunt. And I thought that was pretty funny. And this happened at the gym. Again, didn't happen in front of my computer, writing a joke. I asked my friends, hey, can babies have cocaine? Now, I think that's funny for multiple different reasons. I think that's funny because I know babies can't have cocaine. I don't really like babies. If you give cocaine to babies, you should be put in prison. But it's just a funny question. Here's something I said last Wednesday. An owl just brought me a letter in the mail. What does this mean? Now, this is funny because I'm not going to explain every single joke to you, but this is funny because in Harry Potter, they actually send messages by owl. So what I'm alluding to is that I'm a wizard of sorts. Not a witch, but a wizard. Witch, very interesting term, very close to the B word. They said wizards get this, mystical name, and they're wizards. Those, and then they go, those witches, just a bunch of witches. I don't like that, I don't like that at all. I'm fascinated by dry erase markers. Again, every single joke I'm telling you, dog just sneezed. Every single joke I'm telling you came from a natural place. It did not come from a forced place. And that's the problem with forcing it. And that's my problem with comedy nowadays is it feels forced. Every single joke has been told. So you sit down, what are you going to write? You're going to write a joke that's already been told. You're going to write a joke you think is going to be funny. You're going to write a joke that's going to get you attention. This is my problem. As much as I love political humor, this is my problem with political humor, especially a show like a weekly or daily show. Writers in the writers' rooms, no, I've never been in one, so I can't say how they work for sure. But from what I can gather, every single day they have to open the newspaper and say, okay, I'm going to write a joke. That's not where good comedy comes from. Good comedy doesn't come from, oh yeah, let me force this. That's not where good farts come from. I know I just made a fart joke while also talking about what's funny and what's not funny. We'll just play the sound effects. Sorry about that. We have to, required by law, to play the fart sound effect every half hour, or I go to prison. But political humor, and really just repetitive humor in general, if you have, it doesn't need to be political, but if your job is to every day write jokes, that's why the late night show format is failing. You can't force this stuff. The funniest things that's happened ever have not been forced. They've not been planned. The funniest videos on the internet happened in an instant. They didn't happen with 10 writers in the writer's room going, hey, what can we do to go viral? Let's do a viral thing. You're never going to get a viral thing. You're never going to get a funny thing. You're never going to get an interesting thing if you say, let's make said thing. It just needs to happen. Let's go on to a question that I'm going to pose to you. And I like to pose questions to my students. I think you as my students, I'm your master, of course. But the question I pose to you is, what's worse? Someone who thinks that they're funny or someone who wants to be funny? I'm going to put a big question mark at the end of that because I really don't know. Someone who thinks they're funny, that's the worst. No one who's ever thought they're funny has actually ever been funny. The pipes again. No one who thinks they're funny has actually ever been funny. I've never thought I'm funny. I've never thought I'm talented. And yet I'm the funniest guy in town. Now, it's a very small town, but I'm still fairly funny. But I don't think I'm funny. That's where you get arrogance and self-importance. But someone who wants to be funny, that's fine. But that's what I'm going back to, is it's forced. I'm going to say it again. It seems so simple, but you can't force this stuff. How do you write a joke? You don't. A joke comes to you. You don't come to a joke. Okay? I truly believe it's some sort of divine intervention. How can you not believe in a God where it's 3 a.m, driving around with your friend, with your buddy, and you say the funniest thing? It didn't come from sitting down in a room with 15 other people saying, hey, what could we do to go viral? I don't know. Let's do this. No. We should do this. Now, I saw this on Instagram and we need to do exactly this. That's not where good comedy comes from. It comes from being natural. It comes from being one with the universe. Now, I don't want to get too advanced on you now, but I want to stress again, I don't take myself super seriously, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not like Ricky Gervais in that one documentary where they sit down and talk with, I think, Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, and they talk about comedy. And Ricky Gervais, I think, had been doing comedy for like 6 months. He's like 50 years old. First of all, I think Ricky Gervais was hilarious in The Office, and I think, generally pretty funny guy. But he had been doing stand-up comedy for like a day, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the comic. I deserve to be on." He organized the panel of people and was like, "Yeah, let me get in there because me at 60 years old just started doing comedy. I know more than these veterans, legends of comedy." I'm harshing on Mr. Gervais, but I don't mean to, because I'm sure Ricky Gervais can come up with thousands of hilarious transgender jokes that I just could not even begin to go head to head with. But I say that to say you can't force it. You can't put yourself on a panel with people who have been naturally funny their whole lives and say, "Yeah, I'm going to insert myself into this." You can't sit in the writer's room and say, "I'm going to insert myself into the zeitgeist." That's a big word, zeitgeist. I don't think anyone knows what it means. Meaning has been lost in translation. But you can't say that. There are the pipes falling. Could it be my cue to wrap this up? I'll leave you with a couple more jokes. Here's probably the funniest joke I've ever told. Again, didn't happen sitting in front of my computer saying, "Let me write a joke." It happened naturally. Again, I know a lot of people in this industry, they think it's very, very hilarious to be an atheist. They think it's very original. But I don't know how you can believe in comedy and not believe in God, because it's such a beautiful thing to have a joke just come to you. Where did it come from? I don't know. You want to explain that with science? Everyone thinks they know about science, like, "Oh yeah, I believe in science." But haven't scientists always been wrong? That's what Norm Macdonald said one time. Scientists thought that the sun went around the earth, not the other way around. And then they were like, no, we got it wrong. What do scientists know? You believe in it was nothing, and then there was like just a loud fart. Again, we have to play the fart sound effects. I'm sorry to my viewers over the age of 1, but we have to play that every half hour. You believe that it just came from nothing? Where did that joke come from? Where did the world come from? Where did the beauty of the world come from? So I'll tell you the funniest joke I've ever told. A homosexual is defined as a man who is sexually attracted to women. I am thus a homosexual. That joke came from one moment in the universe. A cosmic array of stars aligned. And that joke came down to me while I was sitting on the crapper, probably doing the dishes at the same time. I shit while doing the dishes. That's what you need to know about me. I shit while doing the dishes. I'm going to say it one more time. That's a funny thing that people do. I'm going to say it one more time. They say the least interesting thing that's ever been told. And they say, "I'm going to say that one more time." Why? Why do you even say it in the first place? That's what preachers do a lot. I don't know if you grew up with any preachers. Preachers, all my love to them, God-fearing men, but they have a very warped view on what they're saying. They think it's like the most beautiful thing that's ever been told since Moses received the Old Testament. They're like, I prostitutionalized a foregoing of the universe's infinite bounds and realisticalized the entry point of the vagina. I'm going to say that one more time. And then they say it again, maybe even a little bit slower. Why? Why? So I'll leave you with that, my good people. Play you out. Of course, it wouldn't be the Miles Miller podcast without metal pipes falling. It just wouldn't. So I'm going to play you out for real this time. Just remember, don't force it. Comedy is a beautiful thing. Comedy. Comedy. Now that's funny. Comedy spelled C-U-M. That's funny. Cum is funny. Comedy is beautiful. Don't ruin it by forcing it. There's so much bad comedy out there. Don't ruin it by forcing it like I'm forcing this podcast. Okay? I had no script for this. Awful. Just awful. So thank you, everyone. I don't know how to turn down the music. So you'll just have to hear the music while me talking over it. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know if anyone can hear this. Thank you very much. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Joe Biden.